Well, Turf TV are very privileged today to be at Eton College, and we're joined by grounds manager John Taylor. John, thank you for your time here.
You're welcome.
You're getting towards the end of your career here, and I think it's well documented that a little something happened that allowed you to bring your retirement up a little bit in terms of a nice lottery win.
Yes.
But where I'd like to start with you is, how did you actually get into the turf care industry?
It was by accident. I was at Crypt Grammar School in Gloucester, and I just completed O-levels, awaiting results, so I went off to work on a sports ground, the Gloucestershire County Ground in Gloucester. And I spent 6 weeks there and went back to school to do what was known as OA levels then. And at the time I was thinking I quite enjoyed that. I was driving tractors, cutting cricket pitches, and doing all the things that groundsmen do. But I was under the tutelage of a chap called Charlie Newman, who'd been at Lord's Cricket Ground.
Right.
And Charlie had always sort of been very positive about grounds and groundsmanship, and the National Association of Groundsmen, or the Institute of Groundsmen as it later became, obviously had examinations and things that I could go to college, and I went to Hartbury College. So I gave up on my OA levels. I went back as an apprentice at the county ground the following year, and then went to Hartbury College for 2 years to get some qualifications.
And how long was it in between that and your role here at Eton?
Well, I came here in 1994. I started at the Gloucestershire ground, the Wagon Works as it was called, back in 1972. But of course they paid for my education and allowed me to go to Hartbury College for more than 2 years, in fact. But it was a bit of a risk. My headmaster told me I was going to go into a dead-end job and that I should have been an accountant or a salesman.
Okay. So then was it Eton? Or was there anything else?
No. I left, I was there for 12 years. I then went to Charlton College.
Right.
And I was there from 1983 to 1989. Whilst I was there, we had the county cricket, the Charlton Festival, and we kept winning awards on an annual basis. And batsmen were breaking fingers on our very quick pitches,
right.
And it gave me a bit of a reputation of making quick pitches. And following that, I moved again to Glamorgan, and I took up a post of grounds maintenance manager, and that was managing 300 plus schools and colleges and university grounds.
Wow.
But it was at a time when we needed to bring in what was compulsory competitive tendering.
Right.
So I drew up specifications for each sports grounds, each school. At the same time, I did a bit of work for Glamorgan County Cricket Club at Abergavenny and down at Cowbridge. So I quite enjoyed still keeping my hand in, but it was more on the management of and running competitive tendered sites. So it was a quite an interesting time. Bit disillusioning because they were selling off their land. Sports fields were becoming valuable as sale items. So it was a little bit disillusioning. And after 5 years of doing that and completing the full cycle of the competitive tendering process, I then decided that to remember my time at Charlton College and look for another public school.
So away from the council sector, the public service sector, shall we call it, into public education, again with Eton. And you joined here in a senior role?
Yes, I came here in 1994. The interview process started in 1993, and I was appointed in 94 as playing fields manager. This was a new title, bearing in mind that since 1887 there's only been 3 previous head groundsmen. Right. So we had Mr. White, and then Bill Bowles followed him. Both of those did 50 years each. Then in between was a chappie called Peter Miles who did 1984 to 1994. And then I came along then. And it was playing fields manager, or head groundsman as I've always really been called.
Sure.
And that's when I started at Eton.
So you only have to look around the place to see the attraction of what a beautiful place it is to work. What else attracted you to that role?
Interestingly, it probably goes back to my days with Charlie Newman.
Right.
Charlie, back at the old Gloucester ground, he used to talk about this Mr. White, who was a groundsman at Lord's, who knew Bill Bowles at Eton.
Right, okay.
And it was in the early, when the NAG was formed. And Eton had always been in the back of my head. It was revered in the world of education, in sporting prowess, if you like. And it was one of those jobs that you just don't think you'll ever get. And especially, as a working groundsman, a hands-on groundsman, I've always been interested in all parts of. I can strip down a tractor, but now I do a lot of computer work, which I can't strip down. But yeah, I was attracted to Eton because of its history. 1440, it just celebrated in 1990 its 550 years. The history oozes out of this place. You only have to stand in any field, and you know that princes and prime ministers have all been on there, and it's the history of it.
We talk about the elite pupils and people that you're working with in terms of your customers, for want of a better description. You've also got a hell of a set of footsteps to follow in terms of those other groundsmen that you mentioned who've had the privilege of running the place here.
Yeah.
Bill Bowles is a name that jumps out. I mean, I think he's well known for being at the start of what is now the IOG.
Yes.
Does that give you, something to live up to? Does that give you footsteps that you feel you have to follow in?
In one way, yes, but in another way, no, because I wanted to make my own mark here. I met Bill. I was very lucky to meet him in the mid-'80s, just after he retired from Eton. He was giving a talk in Newport in South Wales, and an absolute gentleman. And I know a lot of the stories about him when he was here and how he would strut around the place, and he was one of the only groundsmen that the teachers used to say sir to. Really? And they were quite scared. He was a big man in many ways, and he had a presence that everybody knew. And certainly my head greenkeeper, who's Phil James, he worked under Bill. So there's an old link there, and Phil's still here. He's the same age as me, so not for much longer, I guess. But there is a link to the past, and we know many, many stories of Bill. But of course, his big thing was our 80th year last year of celebrating the start of the IOG, if you like.
Which you had to belong here to celebrate. Didn't you?
Everybody came along from the IOG. It was a fantastic day out. We had a big cake cutting ceremony and lunch, and finished off with a committee meeting, and everybody shook hands and went away. It was. Thankfully, I wasn't at the committee meeting.
Okay, you could go and do something else. So, what kind of legacy did Bill leave for you, apart from that history, that heritage?
Bill's left a legacy that's worldwide now. If it hadn't been for those gentlemen meeting in that pub to set off and put their 5 pence or 1 shilling at the time into forming this National Association of Groundsmen, I think we would have been poorer and worse off because of it. And that legacy comes right through to Soltex and everything that happens now. I'm sure something would have happened eventually in groundsmanship, but certainly he was there at the start. And I still feel it was 3 or 4 groundsmen that met in a pub, got drunk, thought it was a great idea, and threw their 5p or shillings down, and then thought next morning, what have we done?
Yeah.
But they did it, so that's where it came from, I think.